Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Here's Michael again and the Wasteless World Talks with Bill and Kevin. And today we will have again a special topic. We will speak about the role of what? Let's see. So I will start today with you, Kevin. What do you think is the role of human in society?
I think actually there's two roles that we have in society. One is the one that society gives us, and the other is the one that we should give ourselves. And I think it's really, really important that we don't let society dictate what our roles should be, because we're all free thinking and we deserve better than to be told what to do in life when we can do it ourselves.
Will you add anything to that, Bill?
That's very difficult to do. It's much easier to accept the role, maybe the role as a man or as a woman, follow the stereotypes. Our society tries to make us into what they want us to be, whether it's a good worker, whether it's to fit the stereotypes, and tells us what to say and think. I'm reminded of the book where everybody took soma every day to relieve the drive to be an individual, to help us to conform. Society wants us to conform, so it's a balance that some people never get, but it's not easy to keep separate the role that society gives us from the role that we give ourselves. Also, it keeps changing, right? I have a very different role now than I had 30 years ago when I was raising 3 children. So it's a good question. You know, the word role goes back to the word purpose, maybe, related a little bit.
I think so. And generally, I came to this idea yesterday during the time I was watching the landing of Japanese module on the moon surface. It should be live generally, but instead of live, there has been beautiful images of the moon, close-up of the moons generally, and beautiful music. But repeating again, every 30 minutes, start, restart. And then I have learned in the morning that the module probably crashed because it lost the connections. But I asked me the question, okay, what was the role of sending the module? What was the role of the module to send it to the moon? And then I came to the idea, okay, just 2 days ago, Elon Musk rocket crashed after 4 minutes after launch. For me, you know, I see a huge amount of waste. And there was such a big difference in the response of the Japanese team. They has been really sad. If you saw the images, the faces, you can read, we failed. If you compare it to the faces of Elon Musk team, they celebrate after it boosted in the sky. And they said immediately, it's not fail because we have achieved what we want. Did they really? So, and I think here we came to the roles which not only the society, even the company, as was mentioned by you and by Kevin, the company gave us. And generally, I like what you said generally, that we have the role. I think that we are being born with our role. The only difficulty is we don't know about it and we cannot find it inside. And all 3 of us, we found it during our life. And then I came back to one of my first books, which I wrote by hand. It's 500 poems or so. And generally, I defined my role when I was 18. And it's not that I will build a wasteless world. No. I define what is my connection to the universe, what is my role in the universe, and so on. I was able to do it, but I need 20 more years to put it in a real life. Because at the time, it came to me. but I never thought about it. And yesterday when I thought it back, I did it. So I specified 20 years ago, but 20 years in some way, I ignore or listen to the roles given to me by society, companies, and so on. And then I wake up. Kevin, your microphone.
Yeah. I think that depending upon where in society you were born, I mean, some roles must be wonderful. The role to be the rich only son, perhaps, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. But certainly some people have what can be mistaken for opportunity, but is actually still just a role. And if it's not the role you're happy with, it's extremely difficult to try and break out of. And I think that's the struggle for everybody, is to break free from the role you're given and to actually define the role that you want. Because once you do decide to make the change, there is no way, no pathway you can follow to do that. It's simply, you have to do it by trial and error.
For me, I've always had, probably from my parents, a strong work ethic. And from society, I have always tried to advance and get better, and in the business world. And in that journey, on several occasions, something very, very bad has happened. I've gotten fired more than once. I got divorced. Very bad things. Society would say those are bad things. Every time something like that happened, I ended up better. Every time I left a company that I was working so hard to make a mark at that company, to please the boss, whatever, and then I was shown the door, and a great weight came off my back, and I looked around and said, the next one is going to be different, because whatever the reason was at the time. And every time it did get better. And so I'm now at a point in my life where my wife, I think I told you this, my wife told me 2 or 3 years ago, you don't have to work anymore to put food on the table. And that was the first time in 60 years that I ever thought. And it's taken, I still do not understand what that means. You do not have to work anymore. I worked when I was 10 years old. I shoveled walks and mowed grass. What does that mean? I don't have to work anymore. So if I don't work, what is my role? Or what is my purpose? And I've been struggling for 2 or 3 years to answer that question. So for me, role keeps changing.
Because there is one topic generally, one of the reasons why all the jobs and employers and society and industries put the roles on us, because they do not want individuals. They need masses. Even the politicians, they need masses, because it's easy to manipulate masses, but it's hard to manipulate every single person, because every single one is individual. But in this individuality, in the role, which is in fact, I think that a purpose is one name of the role, but the second can be individuality. Because generally, it is the strength of nature, which is based on the individuality. Not as two cells in our body are the same. And exactly that works in nature. So when I see it, so and just 2 days ago, Tucker Carlson, is it this name of this guy? He generally seems to me that he wake up. And just 1 hour before this talk, or 50 minutes or so, I read an article by Kerry. What is the name? This American politician, Kerry.
John Kerry.
John Kerry, exactly. Pointing out that carbon emission trading is probably not the right thing to do. And I would like to really speak with these guys because they are in the moment of waking up. But you know, both of you probably know very well how difficult times came if you would like to keep it. Because it's not easy. You have to completely change yourself in a way that the society, because this Carlson, he will lose immediately all his friends which came from media because he will not be anymore a media star. He was in the Fox News or somewhere. I don't know. I never heard the name before, but I really love his speech, which he has. And because of this speech, they fire him probably. So, but it was really impressive. So I think that the role as individual, that should be kept and nurtured and so on. And this is exactly in opposite way than anything what we are, right, what we have lived in, what we are facing, what everybody is trying to push us in. But this is so fascinating and so beautiful and so strong that if you once wake up and you find a way, they will not take you down, back or down, because you get stronger every single moment of your life.
The wake up. I love those words. Wake up. That's the name of an exercise when we work with clients on envisioning the future. One of the first exercises that we do is called Wake Up, and it's because people, when I go into a company, they introduce me to John. John's been with us for 25 years, and other people also, and you know, of course, you reach out to shake John's hand, but part of me wants to take my hand back. Why do I want to congratulate somebody who has not stepped outside these four walls for 25 years? What new thoughts do you have, John? You know, I want to have that conversation, but I don't want to have that conversation. So when you get a planning team together in a room, a dozen individuals in a room, all properly demographic, you know, different types of people and so on. The first thing we try to do is to explode the walls. We try to knock the walls down and wake up. And so we plug them into various websites, newsletters, and so on. And every week, the first 15 minutes of the session is to exchange what gee whiz things we found from these new sources and so on. And it's very, very fascinating to watch people actually wake up and actually think things they've never thought before and to exchange them. So I love the word wake up. And if there were a way to get everybody to wake up, then I guess the giants would have a difficulty with that.
They will, and they already do. So if you can introduce me to any one of those two, please do. They do not reply to my email, so.
Actually, one interesting thing about roles is the fact that so many are disappearing. If you think about roles as occupations, so many what used to be skills are just no longer needed, and that must be a very unpleasant feeling to think that you know, in the UK, the generation before mine, if you had a job in a bank, it was a job for life. If you had a job in the civil service, it was the same. But these days, that's all changed. There is no, you know, whatever somebody's role is now may not exist in 10 years' time, and they're going to have to reinvent themselves, redefine themselves, or rediscover something to continue.
You know, in the noon discussion which we have about the same topic, there came two very interesting points. The first one, there has been me, a 70 years young, great lady from Australia, And there was a 24 years young guy from India, generally one of the ambassadors or heroes. And we realized that generally he's the youngest of us speaks about the changes in the jobs and so on. And Pat and I, we realized that generally, when we have been to school, nobody can imagine that one day we will speak over the ocean with the camera on or with the audio and having the computers. Not a single one, but he was born already at the moment when computer was at home. It was one of the things which are completely different. The second, Pat mentioned very interesting point in connection to the roles. He said the roles are described in a job description. And you know yourself, there are many job descriptions for almost everything. But we realized that there is one description missing, life description. Or even the role, the true role description. We call it the life description. And that's missing. So they push us in these different roles which fit the society, industry, and whoever, someone else who would like you to play the role, which it's not your role. And this is why generally so many are not satisfied. Because somewhere inside, you feel there is I don't call it discomfort, there is a difference between the true role, which you still do not know what it is, and something which is being pushed to you. It's like a magnet, which these opposite sides, it's generally turn you down, and once it becomes so strong that it shoot it away, and only your role will remain. Because you are born with the role, it's inside. I don't think it's soul or whatever. I don't know anything about this, but I think this is the reason.
I remember when I became a father for the first time, that my son was born in hospital, and then after 5 days, I went to collect him and my wife and bring them home. And suddenly you got this precious thing in your hands, but it doesn't come with a user's manual. And this is suddenly really, now what? And one thing is for sure, the instinct doesn't kick in at all. It's just hard work and discovery. But that got me thinking after what you're saying is that we don't come with manuals for ourselves either. I mean, we're here, but we don't know what our role is. And it takes a lifetime to figure it out. The earlier, the better, the more you can follow your own instincts, your own intuition. But it is a shock that you don't know why you're here, and you got to find out if you want to make meaning of it.
And the shock came because you has been never told that something like that exists. You are being told only that the roles for the society. When I was a kid, it was the role for the Communist Party. It was the mother of all, and the Soviet Union and so on. So we never thought, and I do not remember a single time in a school, but I have this memory loss generally, but still, no one in the discussion remembered a single time when you have been, let's say, advised that you have your own role inside somewhere. And even if you speak about the churches and religions, they do not speak about you, they speak about God and the relationship to religion. They don't speak about you generally. You should become part of the religion, but it's not you. It's for the religion. So religion is just one example, but industry is other, and so on. You do understand what I mean. So, but it's quite interesting.
It's a fascinating topic. I'm thinking of what the schools taught me as my role, what the Catholic Church taught me as my role, what my parents taught me as my role. And there's very little room in there for a person to think themselves, what is my role? And based on what? Based on maybe what we have read, or maybe some combination of everything that we've heard. But this is very difficult to feel, to be able to touch the idea that is your role. And for me, it's only been in the last several years that I've come anywhere close. And every time I do, I realize I have so much more work to do. It's difficult.
On the other hand, with this, every moment when it came so much it's needed to be done, came your meaningfulness of your life. Because this is what generally you are doing, because it's coming from inside. And we finished last time the discussion that the education system needs to change, and there was the output. More questions or the questions. You know, right now I came with the first one. What is your role? A simple question to anyone who entered the school. What is your role?
Oh, are you asking that question, Michael, of your the people when you give a presentation? Are you asking that yet?
We'll test it tomorrow for the first time.
I'd be very interested in the responses that you get. I suspect you're going to get a lot of blank stares.
I am sure. You know, if you hire someone and you hire an assistant and you ask them the dream job, already a dream job description is very difficult. I can tell you, it's one of the most difficult questions. If somebody came for just an interview and you ask them about dream question, usually if they came for an interview for an assistant, the answer is to be an assistant. But this is much more difficult. And I never tested before. I do not want to use the children or the students as a test bunnies, but that's a very important question. I would like to see the reaction. I don't care so much about the answers itself. I would like to see the reaction, because the school seems to be very open to these topics. So let's see. And I will share it with you for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One interesting thing I thought about is when you do question what your role is, it usually comes from dissatisfaction.
Yes.
You think this can't possibly be why I'm here. This can't possibly be how I'm going to spend the next 30 years. This can't possibly be the way things should be. There has to be a better way. And that's really a good driver for you to then question, yes, what are you doing and how can you change it?
You know, we spoke about it. There came more and more, and the moment came when you realize the role. And I just remember, I mentioned it 1 month ago, I started a project with these big wooden cable drums, and they are really big. And generally 2 months ago, I was on a first meeting there, and so we started out with that. Today, we are running 5 projects in the same factory, different ones. And generally, more and more people are coming, asking, offering. So with every single of my visits, we increase. And what is the best part about it for the company? The costs with the waste management decrease so rapidly and turn immediately into profit that I expect that very soon the German mother company will ask what is happening. How it is possible that from within 2 months' time, you completely zeronize and you make from a red number quite a bold black number. And that's exactly the people, every single one I speak with. They wake up. They came, they help us and so on. And it's generally the company is quite an open environment, I will say. So it's quite interesting, but it's an industrial company. So it's not a new startup or so. No, it's a really established company. And how little was needed just to apply the power of touch. I am loading the drums, you know, and they see me there, not just with a tie around my neck sitting somewhere in the office. No. And that's so interesting. So I think that even with this question can help us really to wake up the people. Just asking them what is your role, and them thinking, okay, if they will find the dissatisfaction, it's the right way, because it's 99.9% of the people do play the role given. by someone else, not their own.
Actually, interestingly, from that, you could also say, what is the role of waste? And actually, the role of waste isn't inefficiency, but waste is, in fact, just hidden costs.
Yeah.
And if you look at it that way, then it's more incentive to fight it.
And there is a second answer. The role of waste is to be profit for a small group of people, called waste industry. Nothing else. So it is really quite interesting. And as I said, I'm really happy that this idea came to me, this question yesterday, with a completely different topic. But if I see the rocket boosting up in the sky, I imagine so much work wasted, so much time wasted, so much money wasted. And they celebrate. I was not horrified about the boosting of the rocket. There was no one inside. I was horrified by the response of the team responsible, including Elon Musk. Horrible.
So when I read that, I read that they had learned so much. That's why they were considering it. However, it comes close to when you're losing, you just declare victory and leave, and it comes close to that. There's so much with Elon Musk that is it's just based on ego. It's so egocentric that I don't know if that is a cover up or that is just I just don't know anymore. I am surprised by the first part of your comparison with the Japanese, because I remember very well the book, probably 30 years old now, but the Toyota story. And the story that always stays with me is the worker on the assembly line, new worker, first day on the job, and he realizes that in tightening this bolt on the inside of the wheel well, he has scratched the body of the car. Can't see it because it's inside the wheel well. And he has been told and instructed to don't let any imperfection go beyond your station. So he stops the line, and everybody comes around and says, why did you stop the line? He says, we have a defect here. I caused a defect. And everybody that was standing around him clapped. Thank you. Thank you for this mindset that says that we will let no imperfection go beyond this stage. So based on that story, I would have expected when the Japanese module when it crashed, everybody would be happy that they have learned, but instead it's Elon Musk's people who celebrate the learning. So my mind is trying to reconcile those two.
What is interesting, generally, I asked at the beginning what was the role of the module. On my opinion, because it was a private investment, of course, the government was somehow probably involved. But I think the role of this landing was generally not to land on the moon. It was not so important, but to show up that Japan is again on the top level and can be trusted.
Right.
And this failed. Because the Japanese lost the trust of the world a long time ago. So, and on the moon, there has been only three: US, Russia, and China. No more nations. So it's quite interesting. But it was interesting.
I think if nothing else, if you try to walk up 10 flights of stairs, you can appreciate the problem that rockets have fighting gravity to get out of the Earth's orbit. Gravity is an incredible source of power, even though we know nothing about it. It is extremely difficult to argue against and go against. And blowing up a rocket isn't victory, isn't success.
gravity can also be our friend. I was reading on energy generation, and I don't know what they call it, but there are two facilities being built now. One in
Gravity
China.
batteries. I will tell you because I'm working on the project.
Great. Well then I'm going to shut up because then you know so much more about it. But it was interesting. They take big blocks, very heavy blocks the size of a tractor trailer truck, and they lift them up a 40-story building. Many of these, and they have it tied into the grid, which is being powered by solar. Of course, your solar power generation declines when the sun goes down, which is just when everybody at home is cooking dinner and needing the energy. So what they do is they push these giant heavy blocks off the 40-story building, and as gravity is pulling it down, it generates all this potential energy is converted into real energy. And I thought something so simple, right?
And what is even more interesting, this technology is already being applied for about 20 years. I don't know how it is in the US, in my country and in Europe. Many times you see in the lifts, you see when it's going down, generating energy. There is a bar with green LED lamps and generating energy going down. And this is generally, so they use it, but never in this scale and form. What is even more interesting, that they generally do not take the stones up. Every single one weighs 24 tons generally. And there are two facilities are being built, one in China, one in the US, if I'm wrong. And generally they use the electricity surplus to take it up. So this is the biggest issue, because just last week when during last week or 2 weeks ago, there was really too much energy in the Czech grid, and the provider or the operator start to switch the solar power station off, not to damage the grid generally. So you produce a loose energy, we can say. So they will not accept it, so it gets lost. But this type of batteries can help a lot. So we started a project already. We are considering something, and we will launch it quite soon. So this is part of the Industry 5.0. This is why I know I follow this technology for 10 years or so. So it's really quite great, and it's simple. You are completely right. You can do it at home. So it's really simple, really simple. We have 5 more minutes.
When we have these conversations, I am just reminded of how many interesting things there are out there that even after my many years, I have never heard of before. So many interesting things out there.
Maybe one more. I mentioned, I think, few sessions ago that there is planned that the Japanese are planning to go to the orbit with a balloon, and I think I mentioned it. And just 2 days ago, a French company, I think, announced that they will be the first one who will go with a balloon to the orbit. And it's quite interesting to look at the game of the companies, who was the first and so on. But until someone goes there, it's just we call it a cloud castle. But you spoke about the gravity. In Czech, gravity word, it's translated as přitažlivost. It's a very difficult Czech word, přitažlivost. And if you speak about the Earth's gravity, you speak about přitažlivost zemská. But if you speak about the gravity of woman, you speak about přitažlivost ženská. So you just add one hook above the first word, and you have completely a different. So we have learned first about the second one, about the woman's gravity to a man, so attraction to a man. It's just a game of the beauty of the language.
Yeah, and both powers are irresistible. There's no point in fighting against them. I also saw that there's talk of technology to build elevators into space.
Yes.
As a better way of getting things into orbit than to try and use rockets.
So, Kevin, I wrote a book in 2011. It's called the Dogs of Luck. And there's a chapter in there on inventions I hope to see before I die. And the space elevator is in there.
Ah, great.
And it required two inventions or two areas of knowledge that we did not have back then. One is this: the string or the rope on which it goes up has to be something light enough to get miles and miles and miles of it, so that it's so far out in space it balances the amount of the rope that's being pulled by Earth's gravity. And the second one was power beaming. We have accomplished both of them. And so I expect that elevator to take off pretty soon.
I will send you after the conversation. I will find out somewhere information about this lift. Generally, it's in preparation by the Japanese company. Still, they have some troubles with it, but it's a serious topic. It's a serious company generally. And they announced it, if I am not wrong, last year or 2 years ago. I just have it somewhere in my memory that they did. And it was quite interesting, quite interesting. On the other hand, I think that the balloon will be faster and will be more attractive because, you know, it's much more cheaper. And at the same time, you as a passenger will pay about, I think, 150,000 euro or US dollars to get in. And if you compare it to 1 million with this Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk rocket, it's uncomparable. So I think that they will get a lot of, because it's quite easy. It's an easy technology, even the children in the school. So we have only 1 minute. So I would like to thank you both for a great conversation. We will come back to it, I'm sure. And let us wish to everyone, have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its time. Stay safe, free, and be visible. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.